God is a God who sees and hears the cries of the poor and the oppressed. That God is a God who, in Jesus, has experienced and endured the worst of our world's inhumanity, oppression, and injustice is astounding. Do you hear how that? Just see how that's written. So what do you then say to the person who says, well, Jesus wasn't molested as a child. He wasn't physically beaten most days of his life by his own father. He wasn't trafficked as a sex slave as a child. He wasn't given whiskey in his infant bottle, which some of my patients had happen when they were children. They're alcoholics. Their mothers put whiskey in their bottles to calm them down. He didn't have whiskey put in his infant formula to keep him from crying. He wasn't taken as a boy and forced into a death squad in Africa. So what do you say to people who argue Jesus did not experience the worst of what this world's inhumanity has to offer? The statement in the lesson is, God is a God who is, in Jesus, has experienced and endured the worst of our world's inhumanity, oppression, and injustice, and that he's done that in Jesus. It's astounding, and so forth. What do you say to this? And this, have you ever heard this before, this quote? Have you heard it before? And have you heard people come back with the criticism I'm making right now? Have you heard people come back and say, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. So what do you say? The argument made by the Quarterly is a false argument, a false position that sets up a false counter-argument. Jesus' mission on earth was not to experience every possible experience of every human being throughout all history. Jesus did not personally experience premenstrual mood disorder. He didn't experience childbirth or postpartum depression. He didn't experience the temptation to be addicted to video games. He never experienced what it's like to take LSD or be tempted to take LSD. Jesus didn't drive cars and be tempted to speed. He didn't.
Now you're just meddling.
No, I'm meddling. We create a false idea when we suggest that Jesus personally experienced every human experience. He did not experience every human experience, and it wasn't his mission to do so. His mission, what was his mission? His mission was to overcome sin and cure the sin condition. Unless he was tempted, according to Scripture, quote, in every way, just as we are, but without sin. In every way does not mean every specific circumstance, but every motive and method of temptation. And they are, here's the methods: fear and selfishness, the survival of the fittest, and self-gratification drives. Jesus experienced those temptations in Gethsemane when he had powerful human emotions tempting him to save himself. Sensualism, this is what it says in 1 John, that the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life are the big avenues of temptation. So sensualism be all the temptations of the physical body: hunger, thirst, fatigue, cravings. He experienced those things. Materialism. He was tempted with the wealth of the entire world. Egotism and power. He was tempted with all the power that was offered to him. And so and then the methods. He was tempted external to himself by Satan in the desert, by his own brothers, by the church leaders, by the crowds at the cross, by the soldiers, by the hurt and rejection of his own disciples. He had temptation all around him, tempting him external to himself. And then he had the human emotions internal to himself, agonizing him in Gethsemane and tempting him. He had the entire gamut of the ways we're tempted and the themes that we're tempted upon. And he experienced all these in order to destroy the infection of fear and selfishness and develop a sinless human character, while simultaneously revealing the truth and refuting the lies of Satan. We have some quotes in, we don't have time to go into, some more evidences and quotes to support all that. But you have to be able to identify that statement sounded so wonderful, but it's a false statement. You present a false statement, you open ideas for a false counter-argument that makes God look bad. We have to have discernment to see truth. And the truth sets free.